computer. Welcome everyone. We'll just wait a few minutes for everybody to join. While you're waiting, you might like to put your name and the organisation you're from in the chat. The chat button's there at the bottom. It's great to have everyone joining us today from sunny Queensland. Hi, Andrew from Winton. We were hoping to get up to Winton this year as part of our outreach, but COVID put a stop to that. So I am looking forward to getting to Winton eventually. And Maureen from Tambo. We've got a great video to play for you today from the Tambo Council, Blackall Tambo Council. Longreach, great. So good to see people from so many places joining, and someone there joining from outdoors. It looks lovely. Okay, we'll just wait a couple more seconds for these people that are just joining now. So again, big welcome to everybody. We'll get going. The workshop, we've said it goes for an hour. We've timed ourselves. It goes for roughly about 3/4 of an hour. And then we'll have some time to take your questions. And then we also have a dedicated half an hour at the end of the meeting for anyone that wants to stay on the line. If they want to talk through anything grant related with us, you're absolutely welcome to. But we'll get going so we can make sure we finish on time. First, some introductions. My name's Michelle Murphy-O'Kane. I'm a grants program manager with FRRR, and I have responsibility for Queensland, Northern Territory and WA. Joining me in presenting the workshop today is Sarah Kluska. Sarah, I'll give you a wave. Sarah's a grants officer at FRRR, and Sarah works specifically to support community groups in Queensland and New South Wales. So again, a big welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us. I'll just share my screen. Okay, hopefully you're all seeing our welcome screen there. Is that coming up, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah, great. So welcome again. We're really glad you all can join us. And in a perfect world, we'd be on the road. We'd love to be there in Queensland, but obviously we're in central Victoria. So as you would know, COVID's impacted us pretty significantly. So this is our attempt to connect and engage with community groups, particularly today. We're hoping to connect with people in central and western Queensland. I just want to acknowledge Tim Fairfax Family Foundation. So they are a generous supporter of FRRR, both in terms of making grant funds available for Queensland and Northern Territory communities. And they've also enabled us to be able to present this workshop today. Just some housekeeping before we get going. If you drop out, you can dial in. You would have been sent a phone number in the meeting invite, but don't worry too much. We are recording today's session, so we're more than happy to send anyone that's after a copy of the recording that recording. And on that note, if recording is an issue for you, please probably let us know in the chat, but probably the best option is for you to exit the meeting and we can arrange to give you the information in another way. Everyone's on mute. You can pop your questions in the chat as we go along. I won't be able to see the chat, so I'll be looking to address any of your questions at the time at the end of the meeting. And as I said, we've got that additional time for more detailed, I guess, question and answer session. No need for notes. We'll email a copy of this presentation to all those that are attending. And I'll just pass to Sarah now, who'd like to do an acknowledgement of country.
Thank you, Michelle. We'd like to start by acknowledging and extending appreciation to the traditional owners and the ongoing custodians of the land on which we are situated today. Michelle and I live and work on the lands of the Dja Dja Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation in central Victoria, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I would also like to extend our acknowledgement and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which you are situated today.
Thanks, Sarah. Just before we start, we've introduced real-time polls into our workshop. So we're only throughout the workshop today, we've got 3 of these polls, and Sarah will launch the first of these polls now. And it's just for us to help us understand if this workshop is helpful and to help us to continually improve how we engage with community groups. So Sarah's sharing the first poll, I believe.
Yep.
Sorry, it's hard for me to see with my screen set up at the moment.
So lots of people found out via our email and through the local council, and it's good to see some word of mouth and Facebook as well.
Wonderful.
So I'll just share that.
Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. So today's agenda, I'm just going to quickly tell you a little bit about FRRR and what we do, talk about the range of grants programs that we have available, and then we'll focus specifically on providing some tips and advice to support you in your grant writing experience, quickly mention some other resources, and as we said, then open up for questions. So fundamentally, FRRR's core business is to connect goodwill with good purpose for the vitality of remote, rural and regional Australia. So we receive funds from a whole range of donors, and we grant those funds out through a whole variety of different grants programs. We're a registered charity. We've been going for over 20 years now, and we've got a really unique funding model, as I said, that links philanthropy, government and business to community. And in terms of those grants that we're making, it's to support the community needs as identified by communities themselves at the local level. We've got a board of directors and around 30 staff. We're all situated across Victoria and rural New South Wales. And our community focus is on the more remote and rural communities, hence this workshop today. And often a lot of our grants go to some of the smallest towns in Australia. We've got what we call a national resilience agenda, and we organise our work into 3 strategic focus areas. So the first of those is people. We invest in the power of people to drive prosperity. Place, we invest in place, and we acknowledge the local context is a really, really critical aspect to our grant making. And the third area that we focus in is disaster resilience and climate solutions. So we activate community resilience knowledge, we building climate resilient community infrastructure, pardon me, and rebuilding capacity through the disaster recovery cycle. So last year, we granted out over $20 million through more than 800 grants. That's up from around $15 million the year before that and $11 million the year before that. And a big part of that growth that we've experienced in terms of our grant making is in relation to that third focus area around disaster recovery. So unfortunately, as the disasters are increasing in Australia, we're being entrusted with funds to grant out to support recovery and preparedness from disaster in rural and regional communities. So we've got 3 ways in which we work. So granting is the major part of our work and probably the main reason you're here with us today. We're really unique in that we can provide funds to any not-for-profit group. So unlike a lot of funders, you do not have to have DGR status or deductible gift recipient status to apply for an FRRR grant. The other thing that we do under the leveraging and brokering area is we can provide not-for-profit groups access to deductible gift recipient status. So what that effectively means, if a not-for-profit group wants to fundraise and they don't have that DGR status themselves, by working with FRRR, they're able to provide tax deductibility to anyone that may want to make donations to them. So if this is something of interest to your community group, we absolutely encourage you to reach out to us and we'll put you in touch with the right staff at FRRR to help you access that facility. The other area that we work in, insights and learning. So we advocate on behalf of rural, remote and regional Australia in the background on behalf of all of the rural communities we work with. So we sit on a number of national committees, policy and reference groups to represent the needs of rural Australia. And that's a really nice segue into our next slide that Sarah's going to talk to you about.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. A very current initiative of FRRR is the Heartbeat of Rural Australia study. So based on our anecdotal studies, we found that rural communities were being challenged, particularly in recent years, by COVID-19, rice plagues, floods, bushfires, and more. But we're keen to get some evidence-based data so we can better advocate for rural communities and ensure that funding is going where it's most needed. So there's a survey that we're encouraging you to tell it like it is, and we intend to share the results back with the communities so they and you can use this to enhance your own advocacy and fundraising efforts. The survey is on our website. It takes around 20 minutes and it closes at the end of the month. I'll just pop it in the chat for you, a link in the chat.
I've just done that, Sarah.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, Michelle.
No, you're right.
So we'd love to hear from you.
Great, thank you. And just the second of our 3 polls, I'll get Sarah to activate that now for us. We just want to understand who on the line might have applied for a grant from FRRR in the past, and you may not know for your organisation, and that I think is one of the options to answer. We're also wanting to understand the level of confidence in writing grant applications. So we're asking you this question now, and we'll also ask you this question again at the end of the workshop to understand if this workshop has had any impact on you.
Still some people answering. It's quite an even spread.
Okay.
Across all areas.
And while we're waiting for you to respond there, in terms of applying for FRRR grants, you're absolutely welcome to reapply for grants, whether you've received a grant or not in the past. We get lots of repeat applications over time. And if you're a great organisation doing great work and aligned to the grant program objectives, there's every reason that you may be recommended for a second or third grant.
Okay, so we've got a mixture. Lots of people are not sure about how their organisation applied. And we've got some people that aren't confident. So hopefully by the end of the discussion, you'll feel much more confident.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So today we'll be focusing on the grant making work of FRRR. I'm not going to go through this slide in detail, but I've put it up there just to sort of give you a bit of an insight into the range of programs that FRRR offers. And the number of grant programs we have is forever changing and largely increasing. So this slide may not be completely current. We encourage you to go to our website, frrr.org.au, and we'll put that detail up at the end, to see the range of programs that you can apply through. And we've got a great new website where on the very first welcoming page, it gives you that option, it guides you through to help you work out which grant program is the best one for your needs. So strongly encourage you to have a look at that there. Some of the programs that grants programs that we offer are national, such as the Strengthening Rural Communities Grants Program. Some are really, really specific, either by the geographic area or even by the purpose. So, for example, there's the Gardner Dairy Foundation's grants program that's working for Victorian dairy communities. So today's focus, though, is going to be largely on the Strengthening Rural Communities Grants Program, the program that Sarah and I most frequently work within. But I just quickly want to tell you about a couple of other grants programs that are open and may be of particular interest to community groups in Central and Western Queensland. So the Future Drought Funds Networks to Build Drought Resilience program is a mouthful. It's funded by the federal government, hence the name, and something that we haven't got any say in. It's a program that's offered for agricultural dependent communities, and it offers grants to strengthen rural communities in their resourcefulness, adaptability, and capacity to be more prepared for and resilient to the impacts of drought. So the second round of this program opens this week on the 20th of September. There's 3 tiers of funding that you can access through that program. The first is $10,000 to $20,000. The second is $20,000 to $50,000, and the third tier is $50,000 to $150,000. So if that's of interest to you, I'd strongly encourage you to have a look at that on our website. The other one I want to touch on, it's not delivered by FRRR, but by a valued FRRR partner, the Australian Rural Leaders Foundation. They have a program open at the moment and specifically targeting Central West Queensland. It's called the Drought Resilience Leadership Development Program. It closes next week. It closes on the 21st. So I would strongly encourage you to go to their website now if that's something that you want to explore further. And the last one I want to touch on is the Volunteer Emergency Services Fund program. So it opens also next week. It's grants up to $25,000. Those grants are specifically to support groups impacted or communities impacted by the bushfires of 2019, 2020. So if there's anyone on the line where that aligns to your needs, again, go to our website and I encourage you to explore that. But the Strengthening Rural Communities program is where we want to put most of our focus, and Sarah's going to talk to you about that now.
Thanks, Michelle. Strengthening Rural Communities is our widest reaching program. It's a program that I work very closely with. It's a national program and it runs 4 rounds per year round. So as one round closes, another round opens. It's deliberately designed to be flexible in terms of the wide range of community projects that we can support. So as it says, anything including the kitchen sink, so long as it has a wide community benefit. We particularly encourage applications from locally led or volunteer-driven initiatives. Some examples of the projects that we can fund are things like community infrastructure projects, like a new ramp for a community hall, or a new kitchen or painting, delivering community events, activities, programs and services like festivals or one-day events. We also fund purchasing or hiring of equipment or materials, such as a printer for an organisation, a solar panel, or hire of marquees. We also support organisational capacity building, so volunteer training, governance training for your board, consultancy to support development of a fundraising strategy. So within SRC, there are 3 streams. There's up to $10,000, which is the small and vital grants, and it's offered each of the 4 rounds, so you can access that year round. Up to $25,000 are the larger leverage grants. That's offered 1 to 2 times per year. So we recommend that you check our website and sign up for our newsletter because you'll be notified when that's available. We also offer up to $25,000 grants for bushfire recovery projects. So for groups impacted by the Black Summer bushfires. We also have specific funds to support digital inclusion projects for Queensland and Northern Territory groups. And so we encourage you to think about any projects with a digital focus that you might have.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And just on the larger leverage grants, we will, as Sarah said, you'll see it on our website when they next open, but they are specifically targeted to remote communities. And I know many of you on the line would fall within that category. So definitely one to watch out for. And we will touch on it later in the presentation, but if you sign up to our e-news, monthly you'll get an email from us telling us what programs are opening and what programs are closing. So now I want to have a try at playing a short video for you. This is a wonderful little video we've recently had made, thanks to funds from the Tim Fairfax Family Foundation. It's probably from an organisation some of you would be familiar with, the Bully Shy Council. It goes for 2 minutes, 50 seconds. I'll play it now. And Sarah, give me a thumbs up if the sound's working. Fingers crossed we can get the sound to work.
Yep, all good.
I'm Julie Woodhouse, Community Services Manager for Bulla Shire Council. Lived here on and off for over 36 years. In the whole Shire of 61,000 square kilometres, we only have 480 people at the last census, so huge area, not many people. Because we're so remote and we are 300 k's from the nearest city centre, which is Mount Isa, it's just something special. It's a nice little community. Everybody socialises together. It doesn't matter what background you're from. I don't know that I can put it any better than that. It's just the whole town spirit. It was called the Chill and Grill, the name of the funded project, and it's been amazing because it's such a well set up trailer so that community groups can hire it for their barbecues or events, and also the council uses it a lot for mental health bonding sessions with depot staff.
Yeah, our barbecue trailer, we use this for any events that happens in the community. We also use it about once a month or for mental health, and well, when they come up and we have a talk with the health team and that, and we have a barbecue amongst all the boys, and we discuss and we do find a lot of ongoing problems, and that's what comes out of the barbecue that we have with this trailer. So yeah, it's a pretty good investment.
Getting around the barbecue it's wonderful for the bloke, especially if they're on their own and they can talk to each other where they may not talk at home to their wives, families. It gives them a bit of a breather, and it does connect people. A barbecue normally connects people, so having our barbecue trailer we can just drag around and go wherever we want, I think that's a good thing. If we've got something that meets the guidelines that requested, we will have a go at it because they are one of the easiest grants to do. This one is very simple. It's designed for community organisations so that all the volunteers who don't have background in budgets or finance or anything, they should be able to handle it. Just go for it because nothing ventured, nothing gained.
So yeah, I think that's a great little example of a project that we can support through the FRRR grants programs, and hopefully that encourages you to get your application in, and it really isn't a hard onerous task. You've heard it from the mouth of locals. So now we'd just like to move to the next section of the presentation and offer you some tips and advice to give yourself the best possible chance of success with any of FRRR grants programs. We organise or we break this section down into 7 components: the what, the why, the who, the how, the when, the where, and the how much. And Sarah and I are going to talk you through each aspect and provide an example of good and a not so good response to each. So we start with the what. This is obviously, it's about what it is that you are wanting to do. And our big tip here is just about making sure others in the community are on board, that it's not just a party of one that thinks this is a great idea, and that the community is behind your project. And the way that you can do this is by attaching letters of support. Letters of support are gold at FRRR. So if you are able to attach letters of support, it can show us that the community is engaged in this project. So an example could be, you're applying for funds to put a new kitchen into a community hall. You might get some letters of support from some of the different users of the community, of the group, user groups of the community hall. Another time where letters of support are required is if you're requiring to make changes to the infrastructure. So we need a letter of support from the owners of the building or the land on which that project is going to occur. And that's all outlined in the guidelines, but letters of support is something that you need to think about early in your application process, and they really can enhance a project. We also encourage you to think about other groups with similar ideas or interests to support or strengthen your application as well.
I'll take over there. So an example of answering the what, we expect a certain level of detail here, so please be as specific as you're able to. the idea of we plan to run an event for the community doesn't really tell us enough. A better understanding or answer would be something like, we will run 3 mental health workshops for the winter community with the aim of increasing opportunities to connect and improve overall health and wellbeing.
Great, thanks, Sarah. The next one is the why. Why is this project important to you? Tell us about the need in your community or the opportunity that you can see. And don't just tell us about that. It's really, really helpful if you can back that up with some form of evidence, and it doesn't need to be formal, it can be informal. Some more formal examples of evidence that you might attach. So let's say your project is about increasing mentally, growing a more mentally healthy community. You might include information from a local community health plan that highlights concerns about the mental health in your area. Or if your project's about unemployment, youth unemployment, you might go to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, the ABS website, and attach statistics to your application that show that there's a high level of unemployment in your area. As I said, it can be a bit more informal. You might do a survey monkey of your membership or run a Facebook poll in your community. By attaching those sorts of things, it really helps give evidence, back up that you're saying what you're saying in terms of the need.
Yep, that's right. So don't just write in your application, we've heard some people are struggling, or we've heard young people want a skate park. It's much better if you can add some details such as, at a community meeting with 35 attendees, over 80% agreed a youth skate park should be purchased as a priority for our town. So it's showing that community involvement.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sarah. Next, we'd like to understand who else is involved in your project. And we do acknowledge sometimes with some very basic, straightforward projects, there may not be other groups, and that's totally okay. But if there are others involved, like most funders, FRRR really value to hear about what community partnerships are in place. It further demonstrates community support for your project. We also really highly value volunteer-led projects. So if volunteers are involved, tell us about them. You can attach letters of support to evidence that, or you can just articulate that in your application. And further on in this presentation, we'll give you some advice around how you can factor that into the actual budget of your application. Beneficiaries, ideally you can demonstrate widespread community benefit of your project. So think a little bit wider than the immediate beneficiaries of any project that you're considering applying for funds for. From there, we jump to the how, the when, and the where. So this is the finer detail of your project. So it's the stuff like the start and end dates and key milestones, where the project will happen. And just really want to call out here, we totally understand that particularly at the moment in the COVID environment we're all operating within, you may not have firm dates or things may change. That's totally okay. We ask you to give us the information that you have on hand at the time of applying, and then we ask you to stay in contact with us. Keep us briefed as things change and update. If we can keep those communication channels open, it's really, we can accommodate and be as flexible as possible. In relation to where the project will happen, consider early any permits that you may require and accessibility. Sorry, there's just someone entering.
Yep.
Finally, how will you know if your project has been successful? Something to think about early and something to factor into your planning so that you can measure success or if it was unsuccessful, so you can measure that as well. So it could be things like, arranging to have someone on the door of an event, collecting numbers as people walk in or out, or data for an informal survey. But if you think about those things a bit earlier, it will put you in good stead when it comes to reporting back about a grant. And if you can put that in your application, it can tell us that you've thought about those things.
So an example, not a great answer would be, we're not sure when or where it'll happen. We will let you know if we get the grant. A better answer would be to give as much detail as possible. So an anticipated date and the venues that you propose to use or you're waiting to hear back from for confirmation. So I'll give you an example of what you could write. The project will be undertaken in a number of venues in Julia Creek, including the CWA Hall, Lions Park and the Civic Centre, which who have all provided a written letter of support for the project. We hope to run events between March 2022 and June 2022. And you can always say to be confirmed, and you can put that in the budget or in your letters of support, etc.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So now to the budget, how much will it cost? On the application form, there is a budget template for you to complete. And we encourage you to think about all of your very real expenses, and some of those expenses that you may easily forget about, things like GST and freight. GST, we're happy to pay for the GST if there's a GST attached to any purchase that you're making or service that you're acquiring as part of your project. We need to have you attach quotes to your application. So if there's any items over $1,000, you need to attach a quote to demonstrate that. If funds are for contracting staff for a particular project, include in the budget the hourly rate and how many hours you're seeking funds for. Give us as much detail as you can in that regard. With regards to income, it needs to be broken down into actual financial support. So this can be co-contributions, cash contributions from your organisations and or from other funders. It's not critical that you have other funders contributing, but if you do, we'd like to hear about them. As well as your in-kind support. So in-kind support is that voluntary support that I mentioned just earlier. And how we suggest you cost this in, and I'll give you my cubby example. So if you're wanting to funds to purchase a cubby for the kindergarten, and you know you've got 4 great volunteers that are going to help assemble that cubby house, and it's probably going to take them around 6 hours of their time, you'd put a budget line item in saying, 4 times 6 times $41. So $41, and it's in the guidelines, you don't need to remember it. $41 is the hourly rate we encourage you to factor in your volunteers at. It's a benchmarked rate that's used quite widely. If you do have your organisation has its own volunteer rate and it's different to that, that is totally okay for you to use a different figure. But we suggest $41 as a working figure for anyone that doesn't have that. So you'd put that sort of line in your budget. 6 times 4 times $41, $984 in-kind support to assemble the cubby house. Hot tip here, please make sure your budget balances. If it doesn't, we're going to need to be in touch with you to sort that section out. And when we get to the resources, we really encourage you, there's a great budget video on our website that we encourage you to take a look at.
Thanks, Michelle. That's true. You'll hear from me, me personally. So your organisation must be not-for-profit, so it cannot exist for private or commercial gain. That's a big no-no. So it must have an ABN or be incorporated. You must offer a clear public benefit for charitable purposes and address a need in the community. SRC applications from communities with a population of 15,000 or less will be given priority. So if your population has over 15,000, you are still eligible to apply, but we encourage you to show how you'll be benefiting smaller communities around you. With the SRC, we also give priority to projects that assist in strengthening your rural communities, building the capacity to deal with local issues, or enhancing existing community infrastructure.
Great. And just when we're saying SRC, we're referring to strengthening rural communities.
Oh, sorry.
No, we've got
Apologies.
that on the slide. It's just a common acronym we use at FRRR.
Okay.
I'll let you keep going with this one, Sarah, if you like.
Yep, sorry, just a glitch. Eligibility. Okay. Apologies. So
No, that's okay.
I'm back on board. What we cannot fund by law is well documented in each grant program's guidelines. And you can access these via our website. So everything you need is on the website, basically. So I'll read through. What we do want to highlight is the matter of sport. We do accept applications from sporting organisations. However, they need to clearly demonstrate charitable outcomes and benefit the community beyond sporting activity. We're unable to fund items that are deemed to benefit sport, so soccer tops or training facilities for a footy club, but we could fund sporting organisations that provide things that benefit the community. One example is recently we had an application from the Barcaldine Rugby League Football Club, and they had an amazing idea to run a Bluey concert for the community, for the families, and they had more than 200 people that could come and enjoy this and experience together, and they had a big Q&A with the Bluey stars afterwards. So that was an amazing project. So that's a good example of how we can fund sporting organisations.
Great, Sarah. So now we get to the actual writing of your application. Most grants now, including FRRR, are accessed through an online portal. We encourage you to go there early, find the guidelines and the application form. Our portal enables you to save and go back to your application. So we would encourage you to log in there and work out what are all the things that you need to put in an application, and allow yourself the time, plan backwards to ensure you give yourself time to collect up all of those things that we've been discussing here today. So things like your quotes, you'll need to attach financial documents to your application, your letters of support, a letter from the owner of a building if you're looking to do upgrades to a building. All of those things take a bit of time. So by accessing that application form early, you'll be able to understand and plan your time. As we said, develop a clear budget that adds up, and tell us a compelling story about why this project is important to your community.
Thanks, Michelle. So more general tips to help you with your grant writing are that you don't need to be a wordsmith. Just use clear, simple language, that's fine. Avoid technical language and acronyms, which I've just failed to do. And also make no assumptions. So keep it simple and assume that we know nothing, because we love to learn about your community and hear that story in your application. And also attach evidence to back up what you're saying. So be as specific as you can and make it clear what you're going to be using the requested funds for.
Yeah, great. So the assessment process at FRRR, it's a really rigorous and robust assessment process that we follow. Multiple people read each and every application, and it's assessed against an assessment matrix that's aligned to our program guidelines. All of the projects are considered by a program advisory committee that includes representation from the FRRR board, and then ultimately the FRRR board has the final sign-off. So no matter whether you get funding or not, you'll be contacted in writing if you put in an application. If you're unsuccessful, we really encourage you to not lose hope, to call us. We'll provide constructive feedback. It'll be Sarah probably that you get on the line, or myself, or one of our amazing team of phone gods. And we'll support you wherever possible to revisit your project and to reapply. So we have many, many groups that applied multiple times before they secure a grant. And my record to date has been a New South Wales group when I was working in that space that applied 11 times and then they were successful. I'd like to think that it won't take that many applications, and some new applications are successful right off the bat. But yes, please work with us, because we're really genuine in our desire to support the more remote and rural communities in Australia. For those that are successful, in your letter, it'll all be explained to you, but you'll be required to lodge a final report. So just something to keep back of mind, you will need to come back to us with evidence of the expenditure of those grant funds, that you spent the money aligned to what you told us that you would spend it for. And if things aren't going to plan as your project's unfolding and you've been successful receiving grant, that's, again, we ask you to stay in close contact with us. And we also want to hear back from you, not just about the finances, but we want to hear back from you about the project. Was it successful? What worked? What didn't work? What impact did it have on your local community? We gather up those stories and we're able to then feed them back to the wider community, but also to the donors that give the funds to us to grant out. And so they're really, really helpful for us to keep our donors engaged so we can continue to support FRRR or rural, remote and regional communities. So almost finished the formal part of the presentation. Sarah's just going to point you to some other resources to support you in your grant writing process.
Thanks, Michelle. Under the funding tab on the FRRR website, there are a whole range of very short 1-minute videos recapping some of what we've covered today and some more. So including one providing an actual demonstration of completing the dreaded budget template in the online application form. I promise you it's not complicated. It's very straightforward and the video will really help. There are some other tips there, including attracting sponsors and how to evaluate your project. And we encourage you to browse through them. So we'll go to the next. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, just to touch, there are some other resources on other platforms as well. So there's the Our Community website is a great resource for community groups, and Philanthropy Australia, Third Sector, the ACNC and your local councils all should have some grant writing resources to help you out. Our final poll before we play a short video and then stop sharing our screen and have a real chat with you. Sarah's going to launch that.
Launching it now.
And we just want to know if you're any more confident than you were half an hour ago.
We're waiting. Oh, wow.
We're getting some answers in there, Sarah.
We're getting there, yeah. So it's definitely moving towards much more confident than when we started. So that's great. We're still getting lots of answers coming in.
And that'll be great for us to feed that back to our donors.
Yeah, thank you.
We also ask how likely you are to apply for an FRRR grant. You know, we really want to see more applications from Central Queensland and from the western parts of the state as well. So we're hoping to see that that you are likely to apply for a grant, and we're really looking forward to reading your application.
Okay, I'll end that poll and share the results. So we're definitely moving away from not being confident at all.
Excellent, that's a good sign. Okay, another great little video. This group, it's the Alpha District Tourism and Development Association. We've just had this video recently developed, so they haven't seen it themselves yet. There it goes for a couple of minutes.
My name's Lavina Anderson. I'm the rural Australian Post mail delivery lady. I do the mail runs here 5 days a week. And I came to Alpha about 5 years ago and got heavily involved with the Alpha Tourism Development Association. Like all small towns, young ones don't have the employment opportunities anymore, so we're losing population, losing kids from our school. And then now we mainly rely on the cattle industry and tourism. We're a very small committee and we just try hard to do things to help our towns to prosper and survive. With our museum, we try to set it up, so we got a grant to get additional shelving for our museum. The most recent one being additional resources for our museum and to help us collate our museum, like we've got a laptop computer, a printer, beautiful display cabinets, which cost a lot of money. Just really grateful for the help.
We have a lot of doohickeys, a lot of thingamabobs, because we don't know what they are. We've got to Google it and then we collate it. Getting the item to tell a story, this object's meant something to someone, and to find out the information about it and to display it and showcase it, that's just, something that just takes it to the next level. You know, if I didn't love doing it, I wouldn't be here. And I think that's a lot of communities. You're in it for the love of it. FRRR's just been so helpful. We've got quite a few grants through them.
Recently, with one of our FRRR projects is a history sign for Pine Hill. We really desperately need more photos. So I've asked local older members of the community, and one lady's come forward that's got photos before the war, and she's more than willing to part with them to get them scanned to help along with the project.
Because it was just a cemetery with no signs, no nothing. So someone wanted to, in our community, come forward and say, I've got all this information. I want to do some name plaques, and so we got the name plaques done, we got some sandstone done, and it tells a story, and that's what we're on about, is to tell a story of what happened. Why isn't Pine Hill there today? You know, what happened to it? It died out when the trains were all taken away, because we're preserving history.
FRRR are wonderful. Online, it's very simple. Follow the prompts. It's all there for you to read and easy to understand. If you have any problems, you can contact them and email them, and it's just a matter of clicking a button, and it's all there. It's really good. I just think you've got to put in for it. If you don't put in for it, you're not going to get anything.
It's good to have that support and have that backup and someone to talk to, because they know what you're going through.
If you've got the backing of your town, I don't think you'll have a problem. Just get letters of support and photos if you've got them, and they're a great way to get some money for your town. I'd say go for it.
Excellent. Yes. So another someone else local from Queensland messaging to you that this is an easy process to apply for an FRRR grant, and just a practical example of the sorts of things that we can support. So we're pretty much finished for today. Just before I unshare my screen and see all your faces, as I mentioned earlier, I really encourage you to sign up to the FRRR e-news. I know we all get too many emails these days, but it is an opportunity where once a month you get a very short one pager that will have on there a list of what grant programs are opening and closing, so that, you know, it saves you having to remember that information. As Sarah said, there's the resources page on our website as well, and the funding now option. So thank you. I'll stop sharing. I think we've gone 1 minute over. And we'll move on to questions. Let me just work out how to stop sharing. Here we go. And I don't want to see our faces. I want to enlarge you all. How do I do that? Great. I can see all of your faces. So we'll have a look at the chat, see if there's any questions in there first of all. So I'll go back to this top of the chat and we'll work our way through. I've got some names of some people that have joined us, so we'll go back through that at the end of the session. So someone said, trying to build a lay-down bay between Blackall and Tambo. I don't even know what a lay-down bay is, Maureen. What's a lay-down bay? You'll need to unmute yourself.
Okay, so we have our ambulance bay. It's an ambulance bay. So between here and Blackall, the actual ambulance bay at the moment is at the edge of the road, where we've got trucks tearing past at 110 kilometres an hour. So when you get taken out of the ambulance, if you don't get blown off the road, you get peed on by cows. And it's rather unsafe. So my husband and I went out and GPS coordinated the new area that is off the road. And I'm looking to build a shed with solo panels and a toilet, you know, because once I get put in an ambulance, you can't get out to go to the loo. And just make it a safer area. The area we've got now is quite unsafe. It's out in the open. It's open to the elements as well as safety. We had one mental patient jump out of the ambulance in the dark and they couldn't find him. But yes, luckily the ambulance driver's got a daughter, so he pretended he could see him and eventually he came back. But in being in a closed shed would make it so much safer. And they just roll them out of one ambulance and into another.
Great. Interesting.
So that's my passion.
And Maureen, from what you're describing, that certainly sounds like a project that we would definitely look at considering supporting. The sorts of things that we would be thinking about as we're reading the application would be who the applicant is from. So if the applicant needs to be a not-for-profit group, if you don't have that sort of status yourself, you're an individual or you're from a group that doesn't have sort of clear not-for-profit kind of mandate, we would encourage you to think about who you could get to apply on your behalf and have that application, have them apply. So sometimes we have councils apply, for example, on behalf of some groups, but you also can align with any other sort of group. I'm
actually president of the Hospital Auxiliary, which is incorporated. So as well as being the Community Advisory Network Chair. And a few
great.
Things I'm
Excellent.
involved in.
The other things, and that, typical, isn't it? In the more rural you go, the more number of hats you each wear. We're really aware of that. The other thing we would think about there is what's government responsibility and what's not. Now, we know often we get applications from schools or parents, PNFs or PNCs attached to schools. And the government, in our opinion, the government should be funding some of the things that they're asking for grants for, but they're not. And that's okay in terms of your application. You just need to explain to us that, why government aren't funding this. And if that's not in your application and we're considering it, we will call you up and we'll ask those questions.
Yeah, just to demonstrate the real need in the community, I think would support that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I've sent an application to Main Roads to get the approval for the area, because it's actually off the road. It's like about probably 50 or 60 metres off the road, so it'll take it away onto it's still in the Main Roads allocation area, so it's not on private land, but it is Main Roads land. So
yeah, you would need to get those approvals.
Just waiting for them to come back and say, hey, you can build this. And
okay.
Yeah, but I haven't asked the council because they get a little bit negative about some of the stuff at times.
Okay, well, I'll stay out of that conversation, but
that's all right.
Yeah, really helpful.
Without it, I will.
I'm happy to revisit it. I'll just go through each of the other questions to make sure that we've got time for everybody. And Jenny's got a question, thinking about applying for a 3-bay women's shed, and has said strengthening rural communities wouldn't be the best grant to apply for. I think it would. I think actually we fund a lot of sheds, mainly men's sheds, a few women's sheds. And there's something that absolutely fits within the guidelines of strengthening rural communities. So definitely have a look at that, Jenny. Absolutely encourage your application. What's Zoe doing from Jericho? An oval at the school. Again, so I've touched on that, Zoe, just before. Our first thought is, why isn't the government paying for this? They should be, but we know they often aren't paying for things that they should be, in our opinion. I hope no one's from government on the line.
Well, they can't fund things that they should be.
Well, that's it. So you just need to explain that, and we will definitely consider it. When it's a school, our preference is not to give the funds to the school, but to give the funds to the PNC if there's a PNC attached. Sometimes there's not, and that's okay. But if it's it comes down to the ownership of that property. So if we're funding a school, the school will own whatever they've purchased with the grant. And if the government owns the school, it doesn't sort of sit really well for us. So, but if it's the PNC that own whatever we fund, that works a lot better. Again, we just...
How does it go with the school owning the land, but we're looking in getting a bore put down to be able to water the lawn and to get turf put in? Would the PNC, we'd be able to do it so the PNC owned the bore?
I think so. I would just you definitely get a letter of support from the school as the owner of the land. But yeah, I think that application would be eligible, definitely.
Yeah, and we'd look at your constitution as a PNC and see that you were for charitable purposes, so that would strengthen your application too. And with things that are going to provide benefit to a school or a kindergarten, it's good to show other community groups that will benefit as well as the children involved. So maybe the oval is available to all the community on the weekends. Maybe playgroups can come and visit a kinder and use that space as well. So that tells a story of community involvement that we really like to see.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, great thoughts, Sarah. Andrew's talking about exploring the deductible gift recipient facility. Absolutely, it's a game changer for a lot of not-for-profits that they're able to access that. Andrew, what I can do is I can connect you in with our team at FRRR that works specifically in that area, if that works for you. Perhaps if you put your email address in. Yeah, just pop your email address in the chat, Andrew, just to make sure we've got it in case we lose our registration details. But we can definitely, and I'll take a note to follow that up after the meeting for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Okay, what else have we got here? That might be it, is it? No other questions on the chat, but is there anyone else on the line that has a specific question? Whatever your question is, if we can't answer it, we'll go and find out the answers for you. We're doing great time. It'd be good for us to hear about your particular communities and what are the biggest challenges you're facing. How's COVID impacting you out there?
We've been pretty good out here at Winton. We haven't had any cases. We had a bit of a scare in Longreach, I understand, but thankfully we've been pretty free of it.
In terms of fundraising, is it I know it's a different situation in Queensland to New South Wales and Victoria, but in terms of over the life of this insidious 18 months we've all gone through, has it impacted fundraising for your groups in terms of events being cancelled, early days, those sorts of things? Or
in our case, we haven't been able to do it because people being cut back on their hours and whatever, the money's not in the community. We've had a lot of terrorists going through, like there's been thousands and thousands of them, but they're all on the tight money thing too, so they don't really want to spend much. They just want to come and have a look and move on, and they carry their houses on their back, so they carry everything with them. So yeah, as far as running events, no, we haven't been able to, which we usually do 4 a year for our fundraising, but they haven't done it this year because there's no heart in it.
Yeah, okay.
And we have had some applications coming in that state that their fundraising capacity is reduced. So that is something we would consider supporting.
It was on the slide when we got to that particular section, but in the past we haven't funded core costs of organisations, so ongoing wages, any of your ongoing costs. That decision at the moment has been, or that policy, I guess, has been put aside at the moment. I'm not sure if that's indefinitely or not, but we are able to fund core costs of organisations, and that's in light of the impact of COVID. There's a lot of small not-for-profits out there that have really, really struggled, and we've seen that come through in the applications across Australia in terms of their normal channels to generate income just to sustain themselves as an organisation. So if that's you, you can consider an application around your core costs. And we're actually in conversations at the moment with the federal government. So we're really, really hopeful that we might be able to have some funds available that are specifically to support COVID recovery. So watch this space. Other questions? Come on, there must be some more questions from Central Queensland, Western Queensland.
I must tell you, you've explained it very well to me. I was a bit dubious about how to do this because I've never done any grants things ever, and this is a passion of mine to try and make this area be a safe area for everyone. So it's very community orientated, and I'm sure I can get plenty of backing on that. But
great.
Yeah, you've explained it so well to me that yeah, I don't feel I was a bit nervous, but now I'm probably going to have a crack at it now.
Can we record that as one of our additional videos? We've done a series of 10 videos with different Queensland groups, and they're being released weekly on our Facebook page, etc. But it really is about trying to get it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, groups saying that, you know, that they've received a grant and it wasn't an onerous or difficult process. A lot of our applications come from you know, really diverse people in the community. So some people write pages or paragraphs, other people write single lines. But, you know, as I said, a team of people read each and every application, and we've really honed our skills over time. And we typically can see between the lines, so to speak, and really see where our project's strongly aligned to our guidelines, and, you know, there's a really strong need. So we will reach out to you if there's not enough information in there, if we need to know more, if we can tell just from what you've included that this is a project worthy of exploring further. Unfortunately, there's never enough funds to go around, and that's why we always encourage people to reapply. But we're really fortunate. For Queensland and Northern Territory, we have additional funds to what some of the other states have, thanks to the Tim Fairfax Family Foundation. And that's about supporting those really grassroots, smaller organisations to access grants where they may not have much likelihood of success with some of the bigger philanthropic organisations. And often it's about that DGR. There's a lot of groups doing amazing work that don't have DGR status and don't have many avenues to get funds. So,
and you must feel free to contact us during the application process if you are not sure of what to do. So please reach out to us via email or on our FRRR phone, where there's always someone available to talk with you and help you out along the way.
No,
someone has asked, is the presentation available? We're recording this session, as we said at the beginning, and we'll make that recording available to anybody that wants it. So absolutely happy to do that. We'll also email you all. Sarah will email you all sometime over the next week. Sorry, another survey, but it'll be a very quick 3-minute Survey Monkey, just about feedback for us, about us as presenters, etc. And also there'll be the PowerPoint presentation, so the slides, but obviously that won't include all of our notes. So absolutely happy to resource anyone that wants a copy of the recording. God forbid, our marketing team may decide to put it up on the website. So you're all happy, all welcome to look at it there, but I certainly won't be going to watch myself. Okay, we've got someone, Scouts Queensland. Let's see what this is a longer message. I'll just have a look at this.
Oh, sorry, I missed that one.
Oh, so it's more a comment, which is great. And yeah, encouraging groups to record their success is something that is passed on regularly. Focusing on delivering projects rather than gaining funding is something that we highly advocate, and welcome your feedback on our submissions. Yeah, great. We really, we know not every project delivered goes to plan. So we want to hear the good, the bad and the ugly. We want to hear feedback from, what worked, what didn't work, how it could be done better in future. And, it's all building capacity for the groups that are receiving the grant. So it's still a positive thing, even if your results weren't quite what you were expecting.
Message.
I'm looking forward for you to send this to me so I can actually share it with all the whole community, because I have their emails and whatever. So
wonderful, Maureen. And where are you based?
I'm in Tambo. I live in Tambo.
You did say Tambo.
Yeah, no, it's only a small community. It's 300 people. Probably half of them are kids. But we do have 36 pregnant women at the moment. They've been breeding like rabbits, and the ambulance is going to be used quite regularly, I think. So that's it's just being put on the side of the road where everyone can see, and they don't know. It's no privacy. So I'm really going to push this one.
Good on you. So I'll ask one more time for questions, and if there's no more questions, I have got one more video. If anyone that's interested, I'll play that last video before we wrap up for the day. But just if there's any other questions. No? Okay. Let me see how I go. I'm going to share my screen again. So this next video is again from the Blackall Tambo region. So I tried to pick out videos that were relevant. This one goes for 3 minutes 50, and it's another project that we were able to support a little while back, like 5 years ago maybe, with a small grant. So I hope you enjoy. My mouse is not working. Let's see if I can get this to work. Here we go.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Jamie Lee Prow and I've lived in Blackall for most of my life. In the past 5 years, I've been involved not only as my job as a nurse within our local community, but I've also been a part of other community organisations such as Red Ridge Interior Queensland and the Blackall-Tambo Regional Council. Our community out here, it's small but mighty. We are made up of just under 2,000 people. We come together regularly for community events and activities, and it's really important for our community to come together socially like that. In the last 5 years, I've had the great benefit of some of my events and activities that I've been involved in being backed by the support from FRRR. What we saw out here was a real lacking of creative development opportunities. So a great initiative with the help from FRRR was the Shockwave Festival and youth program. Blackall-Tambo Regional Council were the main hosts of the event, and over a period of 12 months, they delivered heaps of creative arts and development workshops right around the Central Western region. So what we seen come out of the Shockwave program was that not only did it showcase what local talent we had here in the Central West, giving youth a platform to be able to perform or show their artistic abilities, but we also seen that these youth went on to other professional development opportunities, and they've become even rising stars in the world of creative arts. So yeah, it was a great success, and again, we wouldn't have been able to do that without FRRR. So I learned about FRRR through when I was working with the Blackall-Tambo Regional Council and seeking sponsorship for our Shockwave youth program. It actually highlights and is very supportive and encouraging of rural and regional communities to apply for funding. Without organisations like FRRR helping rural and regional communities bring these projects, activities and events to life, it just wouldn't be able to happen out here, and we would miss out on those social opportunities in our community, not only from a local social connection point of view, but even as offerings for our tourists that visit our region during the tourist season. We really do rely on organisations like FRRR to back us and bring these things to life.
I'll just stop sharing again. So I hope the presentation today has been helpful for you. As we keep saying, we're really genuine in our desire to support more communities in the central and western parts of Queensland. So Sarah and I are really keen to read your applications, and we've got an amazing team of staff taking phones and on the email. If you've got any queries, if you want any help putting your application together, please do reach out. As I said, Sarah and I both have portfolios that include Queensland, but any of the range of people that may pick up the phone, if you call, they're a great team of staff, and they're really, really passionate about their commitment to rural, regional and remote communities. So thank you everybody for joining us today. And as I said at the outset, we were planning to come to your part of the world, and that hasn't been allowed. Really, really hopeful that we can get up there and meet some of you face to face next year.
Definitely would be lovely, as well as today. It's a miserable cold day in central Victoria, and we've got the heater on. So
we're sitting here with our heaters on, wishing we were there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's lovely to see some faces to names of people that I've contacted. So
wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. It was excellent. Thank you.
Yep, very good. I really did
Thanks
enjoy
very
it.
much indeed.